The book I read was Sloppy First by Megan McCafferty, and the plot of this novel is about a girl named Jess who is forced to face many struggles when her best friend Hope moves out of state. And she feels as if no one understands her anymore and she has no one to talk to. And especially at school, Jess has to face her, like, these fake friends that she sits with at lunch because she has no one else to talk to. And she just realizes, like, she doesn't really have a lot of interests, the same interests as they do. And then also along the way, she starts to make a new friend named Marcus, who is known as like a druggie in the school. And he has a bad reputation, so people are kind of like taken off guard when they see her like becoming closer with him, which eventually leads to other issues. Okay, so I'll start with the characters. Well, Jess is the main character who you experience the whole novel in her eyes and like the difficulties she has to face, the drama she goes through, where it's like when she loses her best friend, when she moves away. And then Hope is her best friend, and she's never, like, she's talked about and described in the novel, but she's never really introduced. Like, you don't really, like, she's not there, but Jess, like, writes letters to her, but she's never in the book. Jess never visits her. So, Marcus, which is the druggie guy, and he's the one that has a bad reputation. Heath, who is Hope's brother, who died and early in the book it's explained that he died because of a drug overdose, and Marcus was friends with him, so that's kind of one reason why Jess kind of feels guilty for becoming friends with him, because she like says he's like responsible for his death because like they did drugs together. Scotty, who is Jess's ex-boyfriend, who still has feelings for her, but she has no interest anymore. Bethany, who is her Jess's sister, and she's described as like very vibrant and energetic, and like the parents adore her. She's like the golden child, and everything that like she sees important, Jesse's very like trivial, and they just like really don't have the same interests, or like polar opposites. And then obviously her parents are two main characters, and she's not really close with her parents. Like with her mom's obsessed with Bethany. Like they're alike because they have the same interests. They like to shop, they like to gossip. They're obsessed with Bethany's wedding planning, and all Jess really thinks that her dad cares about is she runs track and cross country, so that's really like all her dad can like talk about. So she feels like that's all he cares about when it comes to her. Like he never really asks her about anything else or shows any interest about the rest of her life. And then Bridget, Amanda, and Sarah are all Jess's like fake friends at school who are obsessed with like their appearance, models, boys, all that. So she really doesn't have any of the same interests they really don't have any of the same interests that Jess has. So she has to like just put on a smile and fake their friendship. Hi is a new girl that moves from New York, and at first Jess is like really excited about this girl moving, and like is like tells herself that that Hi reminds her of Hope, so she thinks maybe she can make a close friend out of this. But then Hi ends up like being completely fake and like she ends up being like this. They find that she's like this really rich girl from New York that wanted to see what it's like to have a normal life, so she like wrote a book about them. And so when Jess finds this out, she feels really betrayed and like feels like she can't trust anyone. And then Clay, he's not really a big character, but he's a boy that was invited to Bethany, her sister's wedding, and he like tries to make moves on her when they just met. So like she's like no, like, and so that's another person like she loses trust with, because like she thinks they're really good friends at first and that he's really nice, and then he does that and then she just loses trust, and then that's all you hear from him. He's not a big character. And then Kelsey, she's not a big character either, but she's Scotty's new girlfriend, so the girlfriend after Jess. And like at first Jess gets kind of jealous even though she doesn't have feelings for him, but I think she just liked the idea that Scotty liked her, like that she was wanted by someone. Paul, which is this senior that runs track, and it's like Jess's dream boy. She always fantasizes about him. And then Burke is Bridget from the Clueless Crew's boyfriend that ends up cheating on Bridget with Amanda, another friend in the group, and Jess ends up telling Bridget, which like starts a whole fight in the group. And yeah. Okay. The setting is in New Jersey, and it's mostly in Jess's school, her house, Bethany's wedding, and the boardwalk where she works in the summer. The mood, I would say, is kind of, it's depressing because, like, it's just sad to see how, like, she has to go through and how she always feels alone, and, like, that no one understands her, and, like, her parents never understand her, and are never really there for her. Then I also said it's confused and frustrating, because, like, well, you'll see if you read it, but towards the end, like, the relationship that Marcus and Jess, like, leave off on, like, really confuses me, but there's a sequel, and I think I don't know how many books there are, but there's a few, so I'm obviously going to read that because I want to see, like, how their relationship ends and, like, what happens in the future, so. And then I said the tone is dramatic because there's a lot of drama between the friend group that, like, Jess kind of dragged into, and also upsetting because obviously it's upsetting to, like, see her go through all of this alone, and, like, no one really sticks up for her. And then conflict is, I had 3, man versus man, because Jess is, like, against her parents, her sister at times, Bridget, Amanda, and Sarah at times when they all got into fights, Scotty, when, like, he keeps trying to, like, come back to her and she keeps denying him, he gets, like, pissed. Marcus at times when she doesn't trust him. And then I also said man versus self because she struggles, like, fights against herself when she keeps blaming herself that she's becoming friends with Marcus because he's, like, kind of the reason for Heath's death. And I also said man versus self because she always views herself as not good enough. And she always, like, sees her sister as, like, this perfect daughter. And then she sees, like, some of her friends, like Bridget, as this perfect daughter, and, like, she has a perfect image, and, like, Jess doesn't really, like, have, like, that, she doesn't really have a lot of confidence in herself, and so I guess that's kind of why she keeps, like, fighting herself, because she always feels like she's not good enough. And then I also said man versus society, because it's also, like, how society sees her, and, like, how the whole, like, friend group see her, and how the school sees her, and how the teachers see her. The teachers see her as, like, this A-plus student that can't do anything wrong. When she starts hanging out with Marcus, they, like, call her down to the office and confront her about it, and she, like, feels insulted by it because she's still getting good grades, she still runs cross-country and track, and they have, like, the nerve to call her down and, like, tell her who she can and cannot be friends with. And then lastly, theme. I was trying to think of a good one. I had a whole list, but I think I'm going to pick loss leads to loneliness. Because obviously her losing her best friend led to her, like, putting her guards up and not really letting anyone in, so she had to face everything alone, and no one was really ever there for her, and she had to, like, when she would get into fights with Bridget, Amanda, and Sarah, she always, like, it was always all of them versus her, and, like, when Scotty would fight, it would be, like, them two, and no one would stick up for her, and then, like, she would go through time periods, like, even her doctor told her mom when she went to the doctor that, like, she needed medication because of how she's feeling, and her mom was like pissed at her for it. So I think it's just like if you don't have anyone there for you or helping you along the way, you're obviously going to be lonely, and the loss of hope kind of caused her and put her in that position. So yeah, read this book. It's really good.